Debbie in Kingman, Arizona, watching Free Speech TV on DirecTV. Hey, Debbie, what's
Hi, Tom. I'm a new fan of yours, and I have a question about the Republicans and Democrats.
Okay.
I know during the Civil War, the South was Democratic and the North was Republican.
Correct.
When and why did that change? Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome, Debbie. Thank you for the call. The Democratic Party originated when the country was founded. There were no political parties. There was the desire to have a federal republic instead of the Articles of Confederation. And so out of the Constitution came sort of a political movement that was called the Federalists. And the Federalists, by the middle of the George Washington administration, had actually organized themselves as a political party. Thomas Jefferson led the opposition to them with a group that was originally called the Anti-Federalists. And by the time John Adams was president and Jefferson was vice president, Jefferson changed the name of that, or the group that he was with, changed it from the Anti-Federalists to the Democratic Republicans. And by the 1820s, they dropped the word Republican. And so the Democratic Party pretty much started way back then. And it was a progressive party originally because the Federalists had become, John Adams' Federalists had become basically total corporatists and fascists. And so Jefferson's attempt to push back on that was pretty aggressive, the beginning of the Democratic Party. But by the 1830s or thereabouts, the Democratic Party basically was the party of Southern slavery, which makes sense. I mean, Jefferson was a Southern slave owner. And a lot of the the early Democrats came out of Virginia and came out of the South. And so that infected the Civil War. A lot of the Confederate soldiers were also Southern Democrats. And then the anti-slavery party was the Republican Party and the so-called Progressive Party. And the Republicans were progressive for about a decade and a half, but the Democrats were still kind of a retrograde pro-slavery party. And they held that position right up until the 1920s. And in the 1920s, this great, and in fact, the Republicans, again, had been the progressives at the turn of the century. In 1901, when, McKinley was assassinated, and Teddy Roosevelt was the vice president, became president. You had progressive Republican there, and you had a progressive Republican in Taft taking on the big corporations. So the Democrats became progressive after the great crash of '29. And FDR came into office in '33 as a progressive Democrat, and the Democratic and created literally out of nothing the legal infrastructure in which unions could exist in the United States with the Wagner Act in 1935, the National Labor Relations Act, and as unions grew and strengthened, the Democratic Party continued to become the party of the working person, whereas the Republican Party at that point shifted to, well, they had been sold out since the 1870s, basically to the highest bidders. They were the party of the railroads, the party of the oil companies, the party of the steel barons, the banksters, and they still are. So they're, to this day, the Republican. But the Democrats have been relatively progressive and solidly Democratic since the 1930s. Hope that little arc of history, Debbie, thank you for the call. Hope that little arc of history lesson is useful to you.